What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad. So in today's video, we're going to do something just a little bit different. As I've been getting settled into the new studio space, I've realized that I haven't done a collection video or anything like that in a while. Typically, we're covering movie news and movie reviews on the podcast and things like that. So I thought before I got these things actually put up on the wall, I might as well show them off because I don't think I've ever actually done so on the channel. Now, as you could probably guess from the title of this video, I'm talking about my custom Jason hockey mask collection from the Friday the 13th franchise that I hand-painted myself. Now, I want you to think back to where you were during the 2020 COVID lockdowns. I was in my house alone with my dog, spending a lot of time watching horror films, watching movies, trying to find ways to fill my time. It was the same boredom that this channel and the podcast was actually born out of. I wasn't seeing Miguel a whole lot. I wasn't seeing any of my friends a whole lot, or even my family for that matter. So one of the things that I discovered I wanted to try my hand at was painting Jason hockey masks. I had seen people do it on YouTube. Some people do it exceptionally well, taking a blank or stripping a pre-existing Jason Hawk and then kind of roughing it up, repainting it, throwing on some blood, making it really cool and interesting. And there's 1,000 different variations of what you could do with that. Now, in order for this to make total sense to you, I feel like I need to go over just a couple of things about my collection specifically, because it may differ a little bit from your collection or from some of the other collections that you've seen on YouTube. Most of the masks in my collection are not based on a particular film from the Friday the 13th franchise. One of the things that I wanted to do when I started painting and I got into this little creative endeavor was come up with my own story and my own version of how the mask got to that point, how it looked like that, how every blood splatter, how every mud splatter, every scratch, every paint peel, just every small detail. I wanted to come up with my own version of how the mask got that signature look. Number two, these were never meant to be ultra realistic, exact replicas of the hockey masks that Jason Voorhees wore in the Friday the 13th films. As I said before, it was literally just a fun art project and something for me to do and keep my mind busy during the COVID lockdowns. I was just going for the overall vibe and aesthetic of a specific situation. So before anyone comes at me in the comments and is like, Brad, that scratch is not in the correct place, I need you to remember something. It's not that serious, bro. And then one last thing, some of the hockey masks don't have the straps attached, and that's because I mainly used these as wall busts. If you go back to some of the older 6-year-old content on the channel, in some of the intros, you'll notice the masks up on the wall. I mainly used them as wall busts. I was never wearing them. I never had them on a head. So there was never really a reason for me to have the straps on there. Now, some of them do have straps, and that's because I switched blanks halfway through the process. I was using some of these really cheapo blanks like that you've bought from Walmart or Amazon. And I ended up switching blanks to a more heavier duty, better quality hockey mask halfway through. So that's the reason that some of the straps are on, some of the straps are off. The look and the shape of the mask may be slightly off, but again, I was going for the overall aesthetic of a situation that I came up with in my head. They weren't based off of a specific film or a specific moment from a film. I was just going for an aesthetic. So with that being said, here is my Jason Voorhees hockey mask collection from the Friday the 13th franchise. Now, I know that I said that many of these masks were not actually based off of a specific film from the Friday the 13th franchise, but ironically, we're starting off with a mask that is specifically based off of a film from the Friday the 13th franchise, which is Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Now, this is one of my absolute favorite masks in the franchise. Specifically, what I think I nailed about this particular mask was the axe cut the blood, I took some liquid latex and I made the texture of the liquid itself. I added a couple of extra touches, like underneath of the eye, coming out of a couple of the air holes at the bottom of it. And then I basically took, there's this substance called perma-wet, and I placed it over the top of the cut just to kind of make it look like it was wet and drippy and runny. I went a little heavy with the scratches on this mask. I'm not gonna lie. I maybe should have gone a little bit lighter with it, but again, it was one of the first ones I did, and I was just trying really hard to nail the overall aesthetic of that mask. And I think it did a pretty decent job at it. The chevron work was okay. The layering of the textures, one of the things that I had to really learn as I was going about this process and painting the hocks was you really have to layer the paint in order to get the grungy aesthetic. And this is actually one of the hocks that's not quite as grungy from the franchise. But as you can see in the close-ups, I went pretty heavy with the scratches, and I wanted a little bit of extra grunge on the Part 4 mask. So this is one of my favorite ones from the series. If I had the chance to redo any of the masks that I painted, it would probably be this one, which is the Freddy versus Jason mask from the end of the film. Now, overall, yes, I think I at least somewhat nailed the aesthetic. Some of the things that I would really like to improve on are the layering of the textures and the tones of the browns and things like that. This was really difficult to layer the color on correctly. I remember I kept going back and redoing it, and then it was just kind of to the point where I felt like it was just getting too washed out, so I kind of ended up stopping. I wish that the chevrons were a little bit more pronounced in the mask. I wished that the 4 slash marks from Freddy's blades were a little bit more pronounced and cut into the thing. It's not horrible, but it's also not my favorite mask. And I also had some blood and things in there that just don't really come through as clearly as I would have liked them to. So this one's fine. It's not my favorite. It's one of my favorite masks in the series. I love the way that Jason's mask looks at the end of Freddy vs. Jason. But in terms of my work, this was not one of my best. In terms of uniqueness, this is maybe my favorite one. I call this the pumpkin mask. It was loosely based off of the mask that Tyler Mane wears in Rob Zombie's Halloween film when he escapes from Smith's Grove. That kind of papier-mâché orange pumpkin mask that he's wearing before he goes back home and finds the Myers mask in the basement. This mask, I wanted a jack-o'-lantern effect, and I wasn't sure how I was going to achieve it. But I think in the orange hues, kind of this neon orange paint that I used, I had this really cool effect that I figured out with liquid latex and perma-wet, where I would basically just kind of drip the latex around the mask, and it would kind of give the pumpkin guts effect. And this is really crazy. I found this the other day, and I was like, I can't believe I actually did that. But if you can see, there are actual pumpkin seeds attached to this mask. Now, they're cased in latex and perma-wet, so they're not just kind of raw pumpkin seeds that are sitting there. But, I thought that was kind of a cool effect of them kind of pouring out of the side of the mouth, and the way that the jaw is just kind of unhinged and dangling there. It's got a really eerie, creepy look to it. And this is one of the most unique ones that I painted, and I'm really proud of this one, actually. For obvious reasons, I call this the Bloody Handprint mask. One of the things that I was going for with the Bloody Handprint mask was this sense of mud. The story that I kind of figured out in my head was, maybe it's raining at Crystal Lake, someone is running through the mud, the mask is still that off-white eggshell color, and there's just mud and blood and, the algae that grows at the bottom of trees and the moss and things like that, just kind of all splattered up on the mask mixed in with the rain. I actually took my handprint and slapped it on the mask. And then cased it in liquid latex and perma-wet to give it that glossy finish. So this is a fun one. I remember enjoying painting this one a lot. This was one of the first ones that I really just kind of went with, and I did my own thing. And I really wanted to kind of get that mossy, just nasty aesthetic. I wish I would have gone for a little bit more texture. I think the moss and the wetness of the mask, especially with it being kind of a rainfall aesthetic that I was going for, I think a lot of that would have come through just a little bit better if I would have given it some more texture. But overall, this was a fun mask. I'm glad it's in the collection. I knew that I wanted a simple version of what the Jason hockey mask should look like. Just the iconic shape, the iconic look, nothing too crazy. So I call this the Crystal Lake Killer. This is basically just my off-white. There's some scratches, there's some dirt, but essentially the chevrons are still there. Everything is still there the way that you would kind of expect it to look. At the beginning of Friday the 13th Part 4, once Jason actually finds the mask. It's scratched up, it's dirty, but essentially it's still got the aesthetic of what you would expect the Jason hockey mask to look like. The movie is dog shit, but for whatever reason, I've always kind of dug the look of the Jason Goes to Hell mask. I don't know why. Now, when it's on his face, Jason looks a little puffy. And I get he's supposed to be waterlogged and things like that, but if you actually remove the mask itself, it looks pretty dang cool. I really, really enjoy the way that this mask, the eye hole has kind of been severed from the rest of it. There's the chunk missing at the bottom where we actually get to see Jason's jaw in there and his full decaying, just rotting. It looks terrible. I threw some blood splatter in there. The chevrons are actually not on that mask, so I didn't include them. And the chevron that was on top, I decided to kind of give it this rustic look, like it's being peeled away. This is definitely one of the more dilapidated masks from the franchise. There's the bullet hole in the top left-hand corner of the mask. I've always really enjoyed doing this one, and this one was fun. Just getting the shape of it right, trying to really study the frames of the film and looking at action shots and stills of the movie, trying to get every cut and every nook and cranny of the mask correct. That was a lot of fun to kind of really dive into that film again, and it gave me an excuse to watch Jason Goes to Hell again for the probably fourth time in my life, and it was not very enjoyable just as it was the first time. I will argue, though, that Jason X is still the worst movie in the franchise. There's not many that I kind of almost refuse to watch. I hate Jason X. Sorry. Call this one the Bleeding Tears mask. The idea was that bullet hole enters in the top left hand of the mask, and as we can see, there is blood kind of pouring out of the eye hole, out of the air holes at the bottom of the mask. It's pretty scuffed up. It's pretty dirty. One of the things that I'm proudest of with the Bleeding Tears mask is the chevrons have so much texture to them. And I really like the fact that I gave a lot of texture. They look kind of shriveled up. They look like they're starting to peel away. There's kind of this ashy look to some of the areas of the mask. I kept coming back to the gunshot idea and kind of what that would look like if someone was taking shots at the Jason mask. Looking back, I actually feel like this is maybe one of the better ones that I did. I think the texture is there. The blood looks good. It looks wet. It's got all the scuff marks and the grime that you would expect. I think this is one of my better masks, actually. One of my favorite roles of all time is Heath Ledger in Chris Nolan's The Dark Knight. And this mask took direct inspiration from the way Heath Ledger's makeup looked in that film. Now, one of the things that I did with this was I took an X-Acto knife and I actually gave the eyes quite a bit of texture. I gave the forehead some texture where someone's, your skin would naturally kind of curl up when you're smiling or when you're laughing. I gave some texture up top where the hair would actually be, where some of the green paint is splotched on there. And then the actual smile at the bottom has got a whole lot of texture to it as well. So I think I nailed the texture here. One of the things that was fun about this mask is on the base layer of the paint, I actually went with a flesh tone paint color. And as you would actually do with any type of clown makeup, I then layered on the white and the green and the black and the red to really make it look like this cakey makeup effect. And I really, really, really think that I nailed that aspect of it. I'm really proud of this one. This is one that was proudly displayed in some of our older content in the first movie room. If you all have been watching our channel for that long, I love this mask. It's one of the better ones that I think I did from that original series. I call this the icon mask. Now, there's a little bit of a story here. So I had 3 blanks that happened to arrive to my house broken. And instead of getting rid of them, I almost threw them away. And I thought, well, why couldn't I try and do something with this? So I took the blanks, I broke them more into kind of their own 3 separate pieces. And what I did was I glued them together to create what you see in front of you. And the concept was that I took 3 masks from 3 distinct areas from within the franchise, and I kind of pieced them together into one legacy tribute to Jason Voorhees. So at the top, we see Friday the 13th Part 4. With the axe cut, we see the blood, we see the chevron half missing, the scratches. It's got that yellowish look to it. On the side here, we've got what you would have found in Friday the 13th Part 3. It's kind of the off eggshell color, or even what you would have seen in The New Beginning with the blue chevrons. Obviously, there's no blue chevron there, although that would have maybe been kind of a cool touch. I should have thought of that, to have the blue chevron sticking out of there. Kind of the off-white color. It's scraped up. It's kind of got the grunginess to it. And then on the bottom half, we went with the Jason Goes to Hell look. So this is maybe my favorite one that I did, just because it started as literally nothing, 3 broken blanks, and I ended up turning it into something that was, at least to me, I thought it was really, really cool. So I'm proud of this one. It was a lot of fun to also to really be able to paint the 3 different sections and then kind of piece them together. I wasn't able to paint them before because of the glue and because of the way that it had to fit together, kind of like puzzle pieces. I ended up painting it after the fact, so I had to use painter's tape and kind of section out each one so that I could make each iconic look shine in its own way. So I really like the icon mask quite a bit. Now, the final 3 masks are when I actually switched to a higher quality blank. It's got the metal studs where the straps attach to it. The holes are more in the correct places. I didn't have to punch any of the holes myself. It was just a better quality blank to work with. These actually fit on heads better with the straps attached to them. So as you'll be able to tell, these are much higher quality masks than the others are. Vincent DeSantis probably not looking to hire me for makeup anytime soon, but I did have to add the Never Hike Alone mask to my collection. The next 3 are from September to November of 2020, so these were the last 3 that I did, so you can probably tell a lot of the the paint job was so much better on these masks. I knew what I was doing. I had more experience. It was a better blank to work with. I was able to add detail to the studs, some rusting. I had more colors to work with. I was able to texture the actual feel of the mask better. I mean, these feel pretty good. I actually sealed them so that the colors kind of locked in, the textures are locked in. And I actually, again, I went back and rewatched Never Hike Alone, and I looked at stills of that mask, and I wanted to do my best to recreate every switch of blood, all of the splatter, all of the scratches and things like that. I wanted to get it correct. So it's not my favorite mask in the Friday the 13th franchise. I'm sorry, Vince. It's great. You did an incredible job with those films. The mask is not my favorite of the franchise, but it's really cool and it really serves that film nonetheless. And I think Ghost Jason does a hell of a lot of things right for that character. And that film did a hell of a lot of things right for that franchise. So here's to you, Vince. Here's to the cast of Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and that one was for you guys. I call this one the Crystal Lake Nightmare. I was going for a black and white aesthetic, kind of a nightmare, almost a sketch aesthetic to it. We've got the black chevrons. I weighed back and forth, and I was like, do I want actual blood splatter on it that's in real color, or do I just want to do black splatter? And I've gone back and forth on that over the years as I've looked at this mask. I ended up going with actual blood, and I wish, A, I would have done a better job on the blood on this mask, but B, I wish I would have just gone for black splatter rather than the actual bloody look to it. Not that it takes away from it. The mask is cool looking. It's a great blank. Again, the texturing, the scratches, things like that. I think the chevrons look good. The concept is really cool. I love the nightmare idea of this, kind of a black and white. I mean, if I saw this coming at me in a dream, I would freak the hell out. I mean, it's pretty cool looking, but again, there are things that I wish I could have improved about it that I thought would have made it a little bit better. Last but not least, this mask is probably my favorite. I loved working on this mask. I love the way this mask looks. I think it fits our channel. I think it fits so many things about just the movie world. I essentially based this mask off of 3D glasses. I wanted to think, okay, what would it look like if you threw 3D glasses on the hockey mask? And while my original idea didn't quite go as according to plan, what I essentially did is I took hot glue and I made large scratches in it and then filled in the scratches with the hot glue to make X's on the eyes. So here is the neon mask. I love this thing. I obviously I've talked about the fact that I really like the way that the Jason Goes to Hell mask looks with the bottom of it kind of cut out, and it looks so grungy and grimy. And I wanted to give this mask a grungy, grimy look to it, but also have that cool neon effect as well. I think the rust on all of the little nodules looks fantastic. I love that there's some real texture and height to the X's through the eyes. It's also oozing some of that color from the bottom holes as well. I think the blood splatter looks great. This is probably, if I had to rank them, this would probably be my favorite Jason mask that I created in that year that I was doing this. Now, since then, I haven't actually created any more hocks. This is basically where it ended for me. But I enjoyed the process. I had a lot of fun doing it. I actually look back on it all the time, and I'm like, man, that would be cool to get back into someday. I would love to try my hand at the Myers masks. They take a lot of work, man. I don't know if I have the patience to do the Myers mask. I briefly retouched my Halloween 2018 mask. I didn't do a full repaint. I retouched some of the paint. And I actually did redo my H2 mask. But it was a lot of work, and I'm not totally in love with the way it came out. But maybe someday. You never know. But there's so many people that do an incredible job with these mask rehauls. And again, I'm not comparing myself to them. This was literally just a fun project for me while I was stuck at home in 2020 and in 2019. But they were fun nonetheless. So I hope you enjoyed them. Let me know in the comments what your favorite one was. Have you ever tried this before? Have you painted any Jason Hocks yourself? Please let me know. We do new shows just about every week or every other week. You can follow us on social media at LTM Podcast KY. Please let me know in the comments which Hock was your favorite. And let me know your tips. If you've done this before, let me know. What can I do better next time if and when I try to do this again? So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one, guys. See ya.